Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome back to the deep dive.
Good to be here.
We've got a really fascinating set of sources today.
Mm.
We're focusing on something about Jesus' life that, well, honestly, you might not have thought too deeply about before.
Right. His practice of solitude and silence.
Exactly. We're diving into a couple of articles here that really zero in on, the significance of it
Hmm.
and the specific times he actually withdrew.
Yeah, away from the crowds, the disciples, all the demands.
And our mission, really, is to dig into these sources, pull out the key insights about why he did this, and crucially, what the sources suggest it means for you.
Okay.
What's striking right off the bat is how the sources frame this. It's not just presented as, like, an occasional break.
No, not at all. Source one actually calls it a major theme. It stresses that Jesus continually withdrew.
Continually. That word really stands out.
It does. And think about this. The sources argue that this withdrawal, this quiet time, it was the very source of his compassion, his wisdom, his power.
So not the public ministry itself, but the time away fueled it.
That's what source one is saying. His deep, ongoing connection with the Father, with Abba, that was the engine, the actual source of everything he did and was.
Wow. That's a pretty powerful reframing, isn't it?
It really is. It suggests solitude wasn't just rest, it was connection, deep connection.
And the sources connect that to us.
Right.
They mention an invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. Because this intimacy was the source for Jesus, Source 1 says he actually invites us into that same solitude, to join him
For
there.
join him? For what purpose?
Well, the goal, as the source puts it, is so that you can know God as intimately as he did.
That raises a big question then. If this was so vital for Jesus himself,
Mm.
how do we maybe overlook it so easily? Or, push it to the side in our own lives?
That's the tension, isn't it? One source actually points to something interesting in Mark's gospel about this.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Well, you know how Mark feels really fast-paced? Like breathless almost?
Definitely. That word immediately or at once pops up constantly.
Source 1 counted it 39 times. It just feels like nonstop action.
Right? Sweeps you along.
It does, but here's the counter perspective from Source 1. It argues Mark isn't really in a hurry. Well, except maybe to get to the cross.
Okay.
But despite that rushing narrative, Mark deliberately pauses. He inserts these moments, these glimpses of Jesus in solitude, praying, connecting with the Father.
So even Mark, the fast gospel writer, highlights the stillness.
Exactly. It's like he's showing us that even amid the urgency, this was crucial. And Source 1 connects that idea directly to us. It calls it learning how to be unhurried with Jesus.
Unheard with Jesus. I like that phrasing.
Yeah, it frames it not just as like a feeling, but a whole way of life,
Mhm.
rooted in this practice of quiet withdrawal.
And does it mention benefits? What
Yeah.
comes from being unhurried?
Oh, yeah. Source 1 lists some compelling ones: feeling peace, hearing God's voice more clearly, experiencing more grace, more wisdom in your life, in your relationships.
So real tangible effects, not just some vague spiritual notion.
Absolutely. It paints solitude as having these profound practical outcomes.
Okay, so we've got the why, the connection to power and intimacy, and how Mark frames it despite the pace. Let's get concrete. What about the actual instances?
Right. The sources don't just talk theory, they point to specific times.
Hmm.
Source 2 even has a list. 9 times Jesus retreated.
9 specific times listed out.
Yeah. And when you look at them together across both sources,
Yeah.
well, here's where it gets really interesting. It becomes so clear this wasn't just, occasional. It seems fundamental.
Okay, walk us through some of them. Where do the sources point?
Well, right at the start. Before his public ministry even kicks off,
40 days.
the 40 days in the desert, both sources highlight that foundational time of preparation, testing, communion.
Okay, so a big block at the beginning, but was it ongoing?
Definitely ongoing.
Hmm.
The sources stress this. Mark 1.35 is a classic example they both use. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark,
Mm-hmm.
Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed.
And the key thing there, the sources point out.
Is that people were already looking for him. The demands were right there, first thing. But he prioritized this solitude first.
Wow. So the needs were waiting,
Mm-hmm.
but the connection came first. That really says something.
It's a powerful ordering, yeah. And it wasn't just early mornings. Luke and Mark describe him often withdrawing to lonely places to pray, even when news was spreading and crowds were huge.
Often. Source 2 emphasizes that word.
Yes, often, meaning this was habitual, frequent, not rare.
Okay. What else did he do it around big events?
Absolutely. Before huge decisions, this is critical.
Like what?
Like spending the entire night praying on a mountainside before choosing his 12 disciples. Think about that weight.
Yeah, that's maybe the biggest leadership call he made.
Exactly. Both sources flag that one. And also, going up a mountain before feeding the 4,000, another massive event.
So preparation for big actions involves solitude. What about dealing with tough stuff? Bad news.
Yes. Source 1 and 2 mention Matthew 14.13 after Jesus heard that John the Baptist had been beheaded.
Awful news.
Terrible news. His response: he withdrew privately by boat. He sought solitude and grief.
That makes sense. It feels very human.
It does. And then there's this example that feels so relevant today. Both sources point to Mark 6.
Mark 6. What happens there?
It's the point where so many people were coming and going that they did not even have a chance to eat.
Oh, wow. I think we can all relate to that feeling. Just completely swamped.
Totally overwhelming, right? Like modern life sometimes feels...
But what did Jesus do? Just push through?
No, that's the key. His response wasn't, work harder. He turned to his disciples and said, "Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest."
He invited them into it too.
Yes. And then the text says they went away by themselves in a boat to a solitary place. He saw their need too when things felt, as Source 2 puts it, all-consuming.
That's really significant. He modeled it and invited them in.
And he took extended time too.
Oh,
After
yeah.
feeding the 5,000, another huge ministry moment, he sends everyone away, disciples included, and goes up on a mountainside by himself to pray. And the sources highlight this. Matthew and Mark say he was still there alone when evening came.
So not just a quick 5 minutes. This was serious, dedicated time.
Serious time. Source 1 even mentions a private journey in John's gospel that likely involved days of solitude.
Days. Okay, that really drives the point home.
It does, and even towards the end, Source 1 points to that final walk to Jerusalem.
The one where the disciples were amazed and afraid.
That's the one. Jesus leading the way, apparently silent for much of it, a kind of focused solitude even while moving towards the cross.
And then Gethsemane, of course.
Gethsemane. His final, intense prayer time before the